Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. In this video, we'll explore a critical topic for anyone working with Kubernetes, understanding the state of pods. Pods are the smallest deployable units in Kubernetes, and their states tell us a lot about what's happening with our applications. By the end of this video, you'll know how to interpret these states and debug issues effectively. Let's dive in. First, let's talk about the lifecycle of a pod. Every pod in Kubernetes goes through different phases during its lifetime. Pending. This means the pod has been accepted by the cluster, but the resources needed for it, like CPU or memory, haven't been allocated yet. Running. At least one container inside the pod is up and running. Succeeded. All containers in the pod have completed their tasks successfully. Failed. One or more containers in the pod have terminated, and at least one of them reported a failure. Unknown. This happens when Kubernetes can't determine the state of the pod, which is usually a sign of communication issues with the node. Understanding these phases helps us identify where something might be going wrong. Let's now take a closer look at some common pod states you'll encounter and how to debug them. Pending state. If a pod is stuck in the pending state, it usually means the cluster doesn't have enough resources, or there's an issue pulling the container image. To debug, use this command: kubectl describe pod name and namespace. Running state. A pod in the running state might still have problems if the application inside isn't functioning correctly. Use the logs to investigate: kubectl logs, pod name and namespace. Crash loop backup state. This is a common state where a container keeps failing and restarting. It's often due to application errors, missing dependencies, or configuration issues. Debug by running kubectl logs, pod name and namespace, and kubectl describe pod name and namespace. Terminating state. If a pod is stuck in the terminating state, it might be due to finalizers not completing or resources not being released properly. Use this command to investigate: kubectl get pod name or YAML. Image pull back off state. This state occurs when Kubernetes can't pull the container image. The common causes are incorrect image names, missing credentials, or connectivity issues. Debug by describing the pod: kubectl describe pod name and namespace. By recognizing these states and using these commands, you can quickly pinpoint and resolve most issues. Tools for debugging. There are several key tools and commands you'll use to debug pod states. To check the overall status of pods: kubectl get pods and namespace. To get detailed information about a pod: kubectl describe pod name and namespace. To view logs from a container in the pod: kubectl logs, pod name and namespace. To view events for troubleshooting Kubernetes, events are incredibly useful for identifying issues in real time. Use kubectl get events and namespace. Let's quickly recap. We've discussed the life cycle and states of pods in Kubernetes, how to interpret those states, and the tools and commands you can use to debug issues effectively. Remember, understanding the state of your pods is crucial for ensuring your applications are running smoothly. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Kubernetes content. Thank you for watching and happy debugging.